Imagine this, it is June 2002. Mahindra & Mahindra is worth roughly 1278 crore in the stock market. It is a respected Indian company, especially in tractors and rugged utility vehicles. But when an urban Indian family thinks about buying a modern car, Mahindra is hardly the first name that comes to mind. Maruti dominates passenger cars. Hyundai is built its position. Tata is becoming more ambitious. Toyota, Honda and other global companies are bringing increasingly modern products to India. Mahindra's automotive identity is very different. It is associated with vehicles descended from the Jeep tradition, tough machines that can survive bad roads, villages, farms, government duty and difficult terrain. Then on 20th June 2002, Mahindra launches a vehicle called the Scorpio, and that changed the entire picture for Mahindra. Fast forward to 2026 and the picture is almost unrecognizable. Mahindra & Mahindra's market capitalization is around 3.8 lakh crore, nearly 300 times the June 2002 level. In FY 2026, Mahindra sold a record of 660,276 SUVs, almost 20% more than the previous year. Its total domestic automotive volume crossed 1 million vehicles for the first time, reaching more than 1 million units. Mahindra is now India's #1 SUV manufacturer by revenue market share with 25.3% and the second largest passenger vehicle manufacturer by volume. This is no longer a company sitting on the sidelines of India's passenger car market. It is fighting for customers against some of the biggest automobile companies in the world. So what happened? How did the maker of rugged Jeeps and rural utility vehicles transform itself into the company behind Scorpio, Thar, XUV 700, XUV 3XO, and a new generation of electric SUVs? The answer begins with one enormous gamble called Project Scorpio. To understand why Scorpio mattered so much, you need to understand the old Mahindra. The company's relationship with automobiles went back decades. Mahindra began assembling Willys Jeeps in India and became extremely good at building vehicles that were simple, strong and useful. Products such as the Commander and Armada reflected that DNA. This gave Mahindra credibility in rural and semi-urban India. But it has also created a problem. The Indian consumer was changing. Liberalization had opened the market. Global manufacturers were arriving. Customers were becoming richer and more demanding. They didn't just want a machine that could survive a terrible road. They wanted comfort, design, air conditioning, road presence, better interiors, and something they could proudly park outside an office or a five-star hotel. In the early 1990s, according to Anand Mahindra himself, a major management consultancy even advised Mahindra to get out of the vehicles business.
How good our cars just are. It's their passion. It's a passion to prove that India can make the best cars in the world. That is what drives them. And they have perfected the art of converting all the skeptics who told us we wouldn't be able to compete with European cars, we would not be able to compete with Japanese cars. Now we are told we can't compete with Chinese cars. And these gentlemen and ladies who are in the team have learned how to convert all that skepticism into fuel.
The company rejected that advice. Instead, it decided to transform the business. And here we need to talk about Anand Mahindra. Anand joined the group in 1981 after studying at Harvard and Harvard Business School. He became Deputy Managing Director of M&M in 1991, Managing Director in 1997, and Vice President in 2001 before eventually becoming Chairman in 2012. The transformation was not Anand's work alone. Executives and engineers, including Pawan Goenka, played crucial roles. But Anand represented the willingness of the group to take bigger risks and build globally competitive businesses. Scorpio was an enormous example of that thinking. Mahindra had never independently developed a vehicle this sophisticated. The company reportedly invested around 550 to 600 crore in the program, roughly $120 million at the time. Anand Mahindra later described it as the biggest amount the company had ever invested in a project of this kind. For Mahindra, this was not simply another model. If Scorpio failed, hundreds of crores and years of work could disappear. But Mahindra did something extremely clever. Instead of trying to become Toyota overnight and develop every single component itself, it built a network of suppliers and specialists. Major systems were developed with extensive supplier involvement, while Mahindra controlled the overall specifications, performance, design, targets, and cost. The project took roughly 5 years. The result was the Scorpio, launched in June 2002 at a starting price around 5 lakh. And visually it was unlike the Mahindra most urban consumer remember. It was tall, muscular, aggressive, it had road presence. You didn't have to be a farmer or a government officer to want one. You could be a young businessman in Delhi and want a Scorpio simply because it looked powerful. That was the real breakthrough. Mahindra had taken its rugged DNA and made it aspirational. Early numbers suggested that something had changed. Contemporary reports said roughly 75% of Scorpio buyers were previously car owners. In December 2002 alone, Mahindra sold 1,369 Scorpios, while its share of India's utility vehicle segment had risen to 50.1% for the first 9 months of the fiscal year, from 47.1% a year earlier. Scorpio didn't simply generate sales, it gave Mahindra confidence. It proved an Indian manufacturer associated with basic utility vehicles could design, engineer, and market an aspirational SUV. And importantly, Mahindra didn't abandon its core identity in order to become urban, it refined it. That distinction would eventually become the heart of the company's strategy. Mahindra experimented outside SUVs too, and not everything worked. The Mahindra Renault Logan, launched in 2007, is a good example. The Logan was practical, spacious, and received positive quality recognition early on, but it never became the mass market breakthrough Mahindra hoped for. The Mahindra-Renault partnership was eventually restructured and Mahindra took control of the product, later renaming it to Verito, and Logan sold only around 44,000 units in India over its run before the Renault partnership ended. There were other products that never achieved Scorpio-like status, and gradually a lesson became clearer. Mahindra did not need to beat Maruti at hatchbacks or Honda at sedans. Mahindra needed to become the best version of Mahindra. That strategic clarity became visible with the XUV 500 in 2011. If Scorpio had shown that Mahindra could build an aspirational Indian SUV, XUV 500 showed that it wanted to become more sophisticated and global. The XUV 500 offered features that buyers increasingly expected from modern premium vehicles: touchscreen technology, navigation, safety equipment, a more car-like platform, and more polished styling. Mahindra was not abandoning toughness. It was adding technology and urban comfort to it. Then came the new Thar, transforming an old school off-roader into a lifestyle product. Then XUV 300 entered the compact SUV battle in 2019 based on the SsangYong Tivoli architecture but heavily adopted for India. And then came XUV 700 in 2021. By this stage, Mahindra was not behaving like the company that had entered the 2000s. The XUV 700 was loaded with technology: large digital screen, connected features, advanced driver assistance systems, powerful engines, and premium equipment. Mahindra understood that modern SUV buyers wanted two things at once: the emotional feeling of driving something powerful and the technological experience of a modern car. Even the Scorpio itself evolved. Instead of killing the old formula completely, Mahindra retained the Scorpio Classic while introducing the much more modern Scorpio N. That was clever segmentation. One customer could still buy the raw old school Scorpio personally, another could buy a more sophisticated version of the same idea. The XUV 300 evolved into the XUV 3XO, while Mahindra moved aggressively into electric SUVs with models such as BE6 and XEV9E. By FY 2026, Mahindra reported a 37.4% revenue market share in electric SUV and said EV penetration had reached 9.6% of its SUV portfolio in Q4. The business had essentially learned how to keep its identity while repeatedly modernizing the product around it. Now look at the scale of the transformation. In 2002, the entire Indian passenger vehicle market was only around 615,000 domestic units in FY 2001-2002. Mahindra was primarily a utility vehicle specialist rather than a mainstream urban passenger car powerhouse. Fast forward to FY 2026 and Mahindra alone sold 666,276 SUVs domestically. Total domestic automotive sales reached more than 1 million vehicles, while global automotive sales across Mahindra's reporting boundary reached roughly 1.12 million vehicles. That is the scale of what changed, and this matters because India became one of the world's most competitive automotive markets. Mahindra is not operating in a protected corner with no serious competition. It has to fight companies backed by decades of global engineering experiences and enormous budgets. Hyundai, Toyota, Honda, and others, as well as Indian competitors such as Tata Motors and Maruti Suzuki. Yet in FY 2026, Mahindra reported a 25.3% SUV revenue market share, making it number one by that measure and became India's number two passenger vehicle manufacturer by volume. It is also expanding internationally. Mahindra says it is now a top 10 automotive OEM in South Africa, became India's fifth largest PV plus CV exporter in FY 2026, and secured an order for 35,000 Scorpio pickup for Indonesia, its largest export order ever. Perhaps the biggest business lesson here is that Mahindra eventually stopped trying to become some everybody else. Its strongest vehicle have a recognizable personality. Scorpio says power, Thar says adventure, XUV7 says technology plus performance. Even its newer electric SUVs are being marketed around design, performance, and road presence, rather than simply saying this car runs on electricity. In business terms, that's called brand positioning. You want the customer to feel something immediately when your product name is mentioned. Mahindra has managed to create that feeling around SUVs. But here is another side to this story, and it's impossible to talk about the Scorpio and Thar honestly without mentioning it. These vehicles developed a cultural image that Mahindra itself could not completely control. Their commanding driving position, muscular design, and road presence made them desirable. But particularly online, the Scorpio and Thar also became associated in some circles with a bad boy or aggressive road image. Modified SUVs, dark windows, loud horns, social media reels, and displays of power. There have also been widely reported incidents involving reckless or drunk driving in these vehicles. In one reported Gurgaon case, an allegedly drunk Scorpio driver was accused of hitting multiple vehicles and injuring six people. But we should be careful here. A vehicle does not create a reckless driver. Millions of Scorpio and Thar owners use their car normally and responsibly. There is no sound basis for saying these models themselves cause more accidents simply because individual incidents become viral. What has changed is part of their popular image. The same aggressive design and road presence that made the vehicle commercially powerful can also attract buyers who want to project dominance. That creates an unusual branding challenge. Mahindra wants Scorpio and Thar to communicate capability, adventure, and confidence, not dangerous driving. And as these models become more popular, the behavior of a small number of owners can influence how the public sees the entire product. This is something companies cannot completely control. A brand belongs partly to the company that creates it, but after millions of customers start using it, the brand also becomes to culture. And perhaps that brings us back to why Scorpio is such an important business case study. The story is not simply that Mahindra launched one successful SUV and suddenly became huge. The real story is that Scorpio changed what Mahindra believed it could become. Before Scorpio, Mahindra knew how to make rugged vehicles. Scorpio showed it could turn ruggedness into aspiration. XUV 500 added sophistication. The modern Thar turned heritage into lifestyle. XUV 700 combined technology with performance. XUV 3XO brought the formula into a smaller segment. The new electric SUVs are trying to carry the same identity into the EV age, and financially the difference between the two eras is extraordinary. Historical data estimates Mahindra and Mahindra's market capitalization at about 1278 crore in June 2002. In August 2026, it is roughly 3.8 lakh crore. Of course, we cannot say Scorpio alone created those lakhs of crores. Mahindra and Mahindra also has an enormous tractor business and sits at the heart of a wider group spanning technology, finance, and other industries. Markets, inflation, India's economic growth, acquisitions, and many other factors contributed. But as a symbol of Mahindra's automotive transformation, Scorpio is difficult to beat. In 2002, Mahindra made a roughly 550 to 600 crore bet on a vehicle it had never built before. More than 2 decades later, the company sells over 6.5 lakh SUVs a year, has become India's largest SUV player by revenue share, and is preparing for its next fight in electric mobility. And there is a beautiful business lesson hidden inside that journey. Mahindra succeeded not by forgetting where it came from, but by understanding which part of its past was worth carrying into the future. The old Mahindra knew how to make vehicles that looked tough and survived tough conditions. The new Mahindra took that same DNA and added design, technology, safety, comfort, and inspiration. Scorpio didn't just change Mahindra's product line, it changed Mahindra's identity. And sometimes one product does not simply become successful, it teaches an entire company what it is capable of becoming. What do you think about this entire episode? Please tell me in the comment section. Bye bye.